While marching across the desert dunes, heading for the next big city, this army of Roman soldiers has encountered an army of their enemies. 20,000 Roman infantry lined up in 5,000 man batches, 10,000 Roman archers in 2 batches of 5,000, and 1,000 generals are now standing face to face against their enemy. 20,000 footmen, 10,000 heavy knights, 10,000 archers. Who will win this battle? They have given their speeches, they have said their goodbyes. Now the battle must begin. The heavy knights begin their charge against the Roman fortifications. The Romans trust that their shields will hold off their enemies' swords, but they cannot defend against forward coming swords and arrows from above at the same time. But their archers will hopefully deal with that. Their generals will give the orders as needed, provided that they maintain a good grip of the situation. The first clashes are happening now, as arrows whiz by over the Romans' heads. However, it seems like the Roman archers are out of range. They are not firing at all. The footmen and the heavy knights, with their free movement, have the ability to encircle or simply push through, while the Romans have to hold formation to be effective, which is why they are already being rounded off. The generals are not sure what is going on as they are standing downhill. They can see the volleys of arrows whizzing down onto their soldiers though. Definitely doing some damage, even if their shields can block a lot. Slowly the footmen are marching forward, breaking through line after line of the Romans. But the encirclement attempt is getting not as much attention, as pushing through is the main objective. But the first rows of Roman archers have now begun firing as they have gotten into range. Blood is spilled in large quantities as the heavy knights are beginning to push forward, doing massive damage against the Romans, more than the footmen could have dreamed of doing. There's a clear push in the middle, where the heavy knights seem to be pushing the most, and where the most arrows are whizzing into. They want to get to the generals. They know that taking out a Roman formation is easiest by taking away the person giving the orders. More and more of the Roman archers are beginning to fire their arrows right for the heavy knights, who of course, with their heavy armor, deflect them easily. The first signs of pushing are being noticed significantly, as corpses of footmen and Roman soldiers can be seen laying on the ground, covered in blood, cuts and bruises, missing their limbs, their weapons, everything. The heavy knights are now beginning to really pour into the small pockets they have pushed through, to encircle the smaller pockets they have avoided and crush them from the sides. However, it seems that the left side of the battle and the right side of the battle are not going as well as the middle, probably because of the archers focusing there. But nevertheless, the heavy knights push on, unable to be stopped. The first of the generals have raised their shields as arrows begin flying all the way towards them, but most of them are ignorant of the danger they are facing, believing in their soldiers' training, unknowing that the enemy is barely 10 men in front of them. The medieval archers are doing everything they can to assist their brothers in arms. Arrow after arrow whizzing into the Roman lines, doing more damage than the Roman archers could ever hope to do. The heavy knights' push is now extended to the bare minimum, as they are just barely not right against the generals. Most of them raised shields, as they know that their bronze armor will not do a good job against these arrows, while their shields will be of better use for that purpose. The lines have been broken and the first engagement with the generals is beginning. Of course, the generals, being well trained, know how to defend themselves against the knights, but they are still beginning to fall as more and more of the knights are beginning to pour into the ranks. Barely a Roman infantry soldier is left, as the archers are being massacred. The generals are the only ones now with a chance of surviving this battle through combat, but none of them will run away, as they know that it is cowardice. Barely a footman is left in the lines of the knights, as the footmen are only picked from the farmers and peasants to be trained into heavy knights or used as cannon fodder. But all of them have perished, dead, on the ground, as their archers step over their bodies, avenging them as best they can, as the Roman generals are encircled now. All hope of escape has been lost unless they manage to break out for the tiny bit that has not been enveloped yet. But they will not do so, as anyone trying to break out will be pursued and killed by volleys of arrows. The heavy knights who were previously dealing with the archers now pouring towards the generals to finish this battle. The last few footmen, eager to earn their right to call themselves a knight, charging forward, straight at the enemy. The gaps have been plugged. Now the generals will not survive. They stare death straight in the face. They are not scared. They do not scream. They only prepare themselves to kill as much as they can before dying. Arrows from all directions hitting everyone. As the Roman generals are being enveloped more and more. The more of them die, the less of them can hold formation. The most inner generals, the highest of the Roman legion, are the ones with the most experience, but even they cannot hold off this army on their own. Archers firing at them from all angles, while heavy knights clean up where they need to. A dark day for the Romans, a bright day for the medieval knights, finally reclaiming their lands and pushing into Roman territory for the first time in years. No mercy is being shown for the Romans. After years of war, the knights have only one goal: show the Romans that they are not to be messed with, and that they are doing. Almost 30,000 Romans taken out in a single day, in a single battle. almost no generals now not involved in the fighting. Each of them will thrust their sword towards the direction of a knight, hoping to get a lucky strike between the eyes or somewhere. But they know that death is now unavoidable, as the numbers advantage of these men is simply too much. A few footmen here are already happy, as they will be promoted to knight officially now. The last Roman leaders are now facing their demise. Barely 10 left of them, but the numbers are falling. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And there we go. The last of the Romans have been defeated. It is a bloody day. A bloody day indeed. Everyone is exhausted or dead. But the Romans will not let this go unpunished. They will strike back. The knights' home city, their last line of defense, the capital of their vast realms, built over generations, now inhabited by hordes of footmen, heavy knights, and visiting Spartans, as well as their archers. They knew that this day was coming, but the Romans are back for vengeance. 40,000 Roman infantry, 10,000 archers, 500 of their best generals, and 50 of their best catapults are now lined up right outside their walls, ready to attack. In the night previously, parts of the wall have been blown open for the Romans to use to infiltrate, and the medieval army has not been able to plug the gap before it was too late. Now, the battles shall commence. The Romans begin their charge. All of them have lost brothers, or fathers, or sons. All of them are eager to battle, especially the generals rushing forward. They want to earn glory. They want to be the ones to cut off the king's head. But they do not know that the king is not here at the moment. The first of the Roman archers are beginning to shoot, causing the footmen to charge to the gate as they notice that the battle is beginning. The archers have strangely chosen to charge forward, giving the infantry no space to advance. The Spartans are going to aid their friends in the battle, as they have had a nice day and wish to defend this for what it's worth. But the Roman artillery is beginning to wipe out the first gate defenses. Even if the Roman archers who had charged forward died now, they are not too bad. The battle shall continue, as everyone who is in the castle currently charges for the gate, hoping to plug the gap and push the Romans out. Giant columns of infantry run for any bit of wall or gate they can rush through to get to the battle, as rock after rock is thrown, launched over the walls. A small company of them are now beginning to move for it, while the rest continue on with the main charge. They will flank them. These Romans here have decided to attack the east gate, being met by footmen rushing outside to protect their home country, their capital, their city. Here a stalemate has sort of set in, the Romans standing on a mound of dead bodies, striking whoever they can, as these Romans seem to be charging far back. maybe planning to envelop them as a whole. The heavy knights have chosen to hold their ground, leaving the footmen to defend the front of the base of the castle, while they will defend the rear. The Roman archers are blocking the entrance for their infantry. They are pulling back now, hopefully giving the archers enough time to pull back too. Although it also gives their archers time to fire volley after volley of arrows straight into them. The first Spartans are now engaging the Romans, although they fall quickly to the masses of arrows and stones thrown at them. They were not ready for a battle, and so they will perish quickly. Blood is flying everywhere as the Spartans manage to push the Romans back even a little bit. But their deeds will not be remembered, as history is written by the victors. Stepping over the corpses of their comrades, the men are eager to protect their country and avenge those who have fallen before. Years of warfare have massacred both of these realms, and now they only want vengeance. The medieval archers firing as best they can at the Romans, but of course they do not do as much damage as they would hope. At the east gate, at the east breach, the Romans are beginning to pour in, leading to a divert of forces, barely enough to plug the gap. But should they fall, this entire castle may as well, as they are quite numerous. On the other side of the gate, the gap is plugged as well, as a lot of Romans, the small company from earlier, along with some archers and some catapults, have begun their advance here. On all sides of the castle, it is being fought for. Masses of infantry line up on the walls, planning to jump down into the masses of Romans to push them back or divert their forces from the main gate. But the arrows and the rocks quickly make that reality unrealistic. But lest they try anyway. With the Roman archers now mostly in the back, the Roman infantry have started to form a bit of a line, planning to push back as much as they can, push inward as much as they can. Masses of Romans have lined up outside of the gate, a lot more than can be lined up inside. They must now trust on their training to lead them to victory. The gate over here has made progress. Although the line of the medieval men has been thickened, it is still a lot less than what is outside of it. It seems that more and more of the Roman infantry have decided to charge here. Over here, it is pretty much a stalemate, as the Romans try to push in, but the few heavy knights blocking the gate do not let that happen. A brutal melee on all sides of the castle. The forces at the main gate are starting to really push outward, mainly because the archers of the Romans block their infantry's way. But the generals are at the front, giving orders and assuring their men that glory will come to them in life or in death. Some of the medieval army hanging on the walls even, pinned to it by arrows. Now the Romans are beginning to push back seriously as their generals begin advancing in the front line, while their archers stand close by to give as much cover as they can. The mound at the mouth of the castle is climbing ever higher, but no one lets that stop them. Arrows and stones are being thrown into it wildly, with reckless abandon. The breach over here seems to have been pushed back a tiny bit, but of course, it isn't of no significance. More and more catapults line up, firing straight inside, destroying as much of their infantry as possible, while the archers try to take out the catapults. The Roman fist is beginning to really push forward. Catapults right outside the gate, shooting at point blank range, doing as much damage as possible repeatedly. The footmen, the knights, the Spartans, they all know that they cannot leave, for they must protect the city at all costs, or their entire trade route and their connections will all be lost. The archers are beginning to pour forward, wanting to get a better angle at the Romans, as well as opening up space for their infantry to pass through. A smart decision. One that may just decide the outcome of this battle, at least on this front. But of course, we have this front as well. A stalemate and a mound of dead bodies building here as well, as the catapults are slowly and but surely falling. Over on this side, the Romans have broken through. Small pockets of their infantry have managed to invade this castle from the west. Their men are now pouring in, archers and infantry alike, doing their best to quickly assist their brothers in taking out the heavy knight swarm that is coming for them now. But the most important front, the main gate, is trying to be pushed through as well. The Romans are pouring in, relentlessly firing upon the defenses as they are making headway again for the first time since this battle began. The wild line of heavy knights, footmen and Spartans, barely able to hold them off. Over here the defense grows ever stronger as the mound of dead bodies only rises and rises, with less and less catapults available on this front, as only archers against archers, infantry against infantry. While over here, the pockets have mostly been destroyed, now being enveloped inside the castle to finish them off. The bloody remnants of once was a secret operation to flank them, laying here in the gate. Again they are beginning to pour in. No mercy for the knights and the Spartans and the footmen. They are aiming to capture this corner first, to block off this gateway and hopefully get a better vantage position for their archers to shoot from, while the medieval archers are doing everything they can to stop that from happening, along with their infantry. But the Spartans are starting to push back. It is now 4 days later and the battle has finally concluded. Everywhere you go, you see corpses from both armies. Mounds of dead bodies, lakes of blood. Everyone is entangled with each other. They have pushed back numerous times, again and again. The main gate is almost blockaded by these corpses, while the front yard looks like a slaughterhouse. Barely anyone has survived, if at all. Only 7 heavy knights remaining. What a poetic end to this war. We will see who will colonize this gate now.